All right, what's up, guys? It is getting late where I'm at. Been a long day, fresh out the shower. But UFC is dropping things that I just feel like I need to cover and that I really want to cover, and they're very interesting to me. There are two fights that have been announced. Well, technically three fights that have been announced in the last couple days, set to take place in July and August. August 15th, first is Islam Makhachev versus Ian Garry for the World Welterweight Championship. This is very interesting. This is at UFC 330, and the reason I find this very interesting is because you would think that Makhachev is just going to walk away with this, take him down, submit him, ground and pound. Just somehow Islam is going to find a way to get away with it. But the amount of upsets that we have had in main events this year in 2026, I mean, the Topuria upset, the Alex Pereira upset, the Yuri Prohaska upset, the Joshua Van, and what's his name? The Joshua Van becoming the title from what's his name? God, you're going to kill me for this. He hurt his arm in the fight. Pantoja. Pantoja hurt his arm in the fight, and that fight got cut short, and Joshua Van become the champion. To me, that was an upset. I do like Van, but Pantoja's one of the GOATs. But there have been a lot of upsets this year. I'm sure I'm leaving out some. So you kind of can't put it past this shit to happen because of all the upset we've had. You can't imagine a world where it's not possible, where Ian Garry is on the back foot, going in and out, jab, 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 defending the takedowns, jab, 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 elbows in the clinch, and somehow gets away with it with Makhachev. You can't count him out. You can't say it's not possible. Now, the other one I want to look at, if I can find my cursor, is another one that's very interesting, which is DDP versus Kamaru Usman for the, not for anything, but a middleweight bout. Now, you got to imagine this is, title contention somewhere after this. It's on a fight night, July 18th. This is weird to me because DDP was like very recently in the title picture, He beat Strickland, Hamzat beat DDP, and then Strickland beat Hamzat. So it's kind of weird because the middleweight champion right now, DDP, has 2 victories over him. So you got to imagine that if DDP goes out there and he takes out Kamaru Usman, they're going to put him back in there with Strickland because Chimaev's not getting a rematch right off the rip. He's going to have to win another fight, possibly more. But DDP has 2 wins over the current middleweight champion, Sean Strickland. So you got to think if he goes out there and takes out Kamaru, he's number 2 in the division right now. They will put him back in there against Strickland, and that'll be interesting. It's like a little circle of just who's going to perform better on what night. Now, I thought that there were a bunch of talks of Kamaru Usman trying to get a fight to get back in the mix for welterweight at 170 because middleweight is 185 where he's fighting now. I thought there was like a pretty good conversation for him to try to get back in the talks at welterweight and him and Islam be a fight. I think Islam would win just because Islam is more in his prime and more hungry, but you can't tell me that wouldn't be an interesting fight. Kamaru Usman and Islam Makhachev, like Kamaru can strike, Kamaru can wrestle, that would be a very good fight. Once again, I think Islam would take it just out of younger, hungrier. Islam's the man right now. But that's interesting that it's at middleweight and not welterweight. So I reckon if Kamaru wins this, I don't know. Can you thinking he can use that as leverage to get back into the welterweight picture? I don't really think so. I think if you want to fight for a welterweight title, you beat someone at welterweight and be in the welterweight rankings is what I would think. But, you never know. Max beat Gaethje and got a chance to move back down to featherweight and fight Ilya. So maybe just a huge win gives you the leverage to do whatever you want, which may be possible. I think Usman and Islam. I think Kamaru Usman and Islam Makhachev would be a very entertaining fight that I would love to see. And I think it'd be a good one. I'd like to see Duplessis versus Strickland again. I think, who knows? I was about to say I think Duplessis can take it again, but you never know with Strickland, man. You never know that cardio, that jab, take down defense. You never really know with that guy, so that's the 2 fights right now. I had this shit up on the screen. This is David and Goliath. Dylan Dennis at 180 versus Eddie Hall at 325 from Misfits Boxing. That's just some bullshit. We ain't going to talk about that. I'm sick of that shit. But, yeah, man. Just good fight. Good fights being announced. Seen a video I had to make. Give my opinion on it. I'm not going to give official predictions for either one of these fights yet. I will do that closer to the time. I'll watch back some footage. I'll get a real good educated guess on what I think will happen, and I'll do prediction videos on it. But I think that wraps it up for tonight. Yeah, man. Good stuff being announced. Got some crazy shit by Josh Hokett here. This is kind of cool, too. It's just pictures from the White House. There's Diego Lopez. Got to be one of the greatest pictures in UFC history. Another picture of the White House. Justin Gaethje's backflip. Look at that. The lightning striking with the rainbow. That's retarded. That was at the press conference, right before the press conference. Gaethje's backflip again. I don't know what this was. This had to be one of the days prior where they did like an event or something. But, yeah, good stuff. And he got some Josh Hokett bullshit. I like Josh Hokett. But, yep, those are the 2 fights that have been announced. And, man, I'm excited. I think both of those are big fights. I think the Makhachev fight is bigger, but I'm very interested in this. I loved Kamaru as a champion. I loved watching him fight. I think he's really good, and I'd like to see where he is right now, like where he comes back from. His knees are shot, so to speak, from what he said. His knees are just shot. And, let's see where he comes back from. So, we know Colby Covington just left the UFC, and those are the Colby Covington versus Kamaru Usman 1 is one of my favorite fights in UFC history. That is the definition of banger. But I would like to see where he's at, considering where Colby went. So I'd be happy to see Kamaru Usman return. I know I'm not the only one. I think it'd be good. Official predictions to come closer to these events. But yeah, guys, that wraps it up for tonight. Good stuff, man. I feel like UFC is really making a comeback. That's good stuff. Good stuff. See you guys later. Peace.